Imagine waking up every morning to the sound of birds chirping outside your window, the smell of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen, and the warm embrace of someone you thought would be by your side forever. That's how my life felt with John. We met in college, back when we were both wide-eyed dreamers with big plans for the future. He was the charming guy in my economics class, always cracking jokes that made the whole room laugh. I was the quiet one, buried in my books. But somehow, he saw something in me. Our first date was at this little Italian place downtown. Pasta, candlelight, and endless conversation about our hopes and dreams. From that night on, we were inseparable. Fast forward a few years, and we were saying "I do" in front of our families and friends. The wedding was magical, a beach ceremony at sunset, with waves crashing in the background and everyone toasting to our eternal love. John looked at me with those deep blue eyes and promised to cherish me through thick and thin. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my rock, my partner in crime. We built a life together, a cozy house in the suburbs, with a garden I tended to on weekends and a dog named Max who greeted us at the door every evening. John worked as a marketing executive at a big firm downtown. He was ambitious, always chasing the next promotion, but he made time for us. Weekends were our sacred time, hiking in the nearby trails, binge-watching shows on the couch, or just lazy mornings in bed talking about nothing and everything. I had my own career as a graphic designer, freelancing from home, which gave me flexibility. Life wasn't perfect, of course. We had our little arguments, like any couple, over whose turn it was to do the dishes or why he spent so much time on his phone. But we always kissed and made up. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were tiny cracks I ignored, like how he'd come home later than usual, blaming it on client meetings that ran long, or the way his phone would buzz at odd hours and he'd quickly silence it with a sheepish grin. "Just work stuff," he'd say, and I'd nod, trusting him completely. Trust, that's the foundation of any relationship, right? I never doubted him because he made me feel so loved. Little gifts out of nowhere, surprise date nights whispered "I love yous" before bed. How could someone so attentive be hiding something? But as the months turned into years, those late nights became more frequent. He'd smell faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. Subtle, floral, nothing like my citrus scent. I'd brush it off as maybe a colleague's hug or something innocent. Denial is a powerful thing, isn't it? It wraps around your heart like a warm blanket, shielding you from the cold truth lurking just beneath the surface. I remember one evening, we were supposed to have dinner with friends, but he canceled last minute. "Emergency at work," he texted. I went alone, smiling through the questions about where he was. Deep down, a tiny voice whispered that something wasn't right, but I silenced it. After all, marriage is about faith, about believing in the person you chose. Our friends envied us. "You two are goals," they'd say at parties, clinking glasses. And I believed it. We hosted barbecues in our backyard, laughed with neighbors, planned vacations to exotic places. Last summer we went to Hawaii, snorkeling in crystal-clear waters, holding hands on the beach as the sun set. John took 1,000,000 photos, posting them online with captions like, "My forever adventure buddy." Likes poured in, comments gushing about our perfect life. If only they knew the storm brewing behind those filtered images. One day, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket while doing laundry. It was for a fancy restaurant I'd never been to, dated on a night he said he was working late. My heart skipped a beat, but I shoved it away. Probably a business dinner, I told myself. But that receipt planted a seed of doubt, one that would grow into a tangled vine, choking the life out of our fairy tale. Little did I know, the betrayal was already unfolding, hidden in plain sight. As I folded his clothes that day, I felt a chill run down my spine, a premonition of the heartbreak to come. How could the man I loved so deeply be slipping away? The answer was closer than I imagined, and it would shatter everything I held dear. The doubt started small, like a whisper in the wind, but soon it grew into a roar I couldn't ignore. It was around our 5th anniversary when things really shifted. John had planned a romantic getaway to a cabin in the mountains, our way of celebrating. But even there, amid the pine trees and crackling fireplaces, his phone never stopped pinging. "Who is that?" I asked casually one evening as we sipped wine by the fire. He glanced at the screen, his face tightening for a split second before he smiled. "Just the office, babe. Nothing important." He set it to silent and pulled me close, but the moment was tainted. Why the secrecy? Why the hurried glances? Back home, the pattern continued. He'd lock himself in his study for hours, claiming he was catching up on emails. I'd knock softly, offering coffee, and he'd emerge looking flustered, his laptop screen quickly minimized. Paranoia crept in. Was I overthinking? Every couple has rough patches, right? But then came the nights he'd crash at a friend's after a supposed boys' night out. The first time I waited up, worried. He stumbled in at dawn, reeking of alcohol and that same unfamiliar perfume. "Sorry, hun. Lost track of time," he mumbled, collapsing into bed. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I tried talking to him. Over breakfast one morning, I said, "John, is everything okay? You seem distant lately." He looked up from his newspaper, feigning surprise. "What?" "No, everything's fine. Work's just stressful." He reached for my hand, squeezing it reassuringly. But his eyes, they didn't meet mine fully. That avoidance fueled my suspicions. I started paying closer attention. His wardrobe had new shirts I didn't recognize, stylish ones that screamed, "trying to impress." And his gym routine? Suddenly he was there every day, sculpting a body that hadn't changed much since college. For who? Not for me, it seemed. One afternoon while he was at work, I did something I never thought I would. I checked his phone. It was charging on the kitchen counter, and temptation won. Password? Our wedding date. Easy. Scrolling through messages, my heart pounded. There were texts from Mike from sales, but the language was off. Emojis of hearts, winks, and inside jokes that didn't sound like guy talk. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one said. "Miss your smile." My stomach twisted. Who was this? I dug deeper, finding deleted photos in the trash folder, images of a woman laughing, her arm around John in a cozy bar. She looked familiar. Wait, was that Lisa? My best friend from high school? No, it couldn't be. Lisa and I had reconnected a year ago. She was going through a divorce, and I'd introduced her to John at a party. They hit it off as friends, or so I thought. The pieces clicked. The late nights when Lisa needed a shoulder to cry on, the group outings where they'd chat animatedly. Betrayal hit like a wave, drowning me in shock and anger. How could they? My husband and my best friend. Tears streamed down my face as I put the phone back, pretending nothing happened when he came home. But inside, a fire ignited, a burning need to uncover the truth. That night, I couldn't sleep. Questions swirled. How long had this been going on? Was our entire marriage a lie? I confronted the mirror, seeing a woman I barely recognized, eyes puffy, spirit crushed. But beneath the pain, resolve formed. I wouldn't crumble. I'd gather evidence, piece together the puzzle. Over the next weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I tracked his locations via our shared app, spots that weren't his office. I overheard a hushed phone call. "I love you too, but we have to be careful." My world shattered further. The betrayal wasn't just an affair. It was with someone I trusted implicitly. Lisa, who I'd confided in about our marital hiccups. Had she used that against me? The emotional toll was immense. Days blurred into tear-filled haze. I'd fake smiles at work, but alone, I'd sob, questioning my worth. Why wasn't I enough? Anger mixed with sadness, creating a storm inside. Friends noticed my withdrawal, but I couldn't share yet. Not until I had proof. One evening, I followed him after he said he was meeting clients. Parked discreetly, I watched him enter a hotel, Lisa arriving minutes later. They embraced in the lobby, oblivious. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I snapped photos, irrefutable evidence. Heartbroken, I drove home, plotting my next move. This wasn't just hurt. It was a call to action. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about reclaiming my power. But how? The plan began to form, slow and deliberate, as I wiped away the last of my tears. With the truth exposed in my mind, the pain transformed into purpose. I couldn't confront them yet. Not without a strategy. Rushing in would give them the upper hand, letting them spin lies or beg for forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. No. I needed to hit where it hurt most. Their secrets, their reputations, their comfortable lives built on my back. Revenge, I realized, isn't always loud and explosive. Sometimes it's a quiet unraveling that leaves them exposed and speechless. First, I documented everything. Photos, texts, timelines. I compiled a digital folder, password protected on my laptop. It was therapeutic, turning my heartbreak into evidence. Meanwhile, I played the part of the oblivious wife. Smiles at dinner, affectionate touches, John never suspected. Lisa? I kept our friendship going, coffee dates where I'd probe subtly. How's dating life post-divorce? I'd ask innocently. She'd blush, changing the subject. Her guilt was palpable, but she hid it well. Little did she know, I was building my case. The plan crystallized over sleepless nights. John's career was his pride. He was up for a big promotion, schmoozing with executives. Lisa worked in HR at a rival company, always networking. What if their affair became public knowledge? Not through scandalous leaks, but strategically placed truths that unraveled their worlds. I wouldn't stoop to their level with lies. I'd use facts to let justice unfold naturally. Step 1. Financial independence. Unbeknownst to John, I started squirreling away money into a separate account. Our joint savings? I reviewed statements, noticing unexplained withdrawals, likely funding their secret dates. I consulted a lawyer discreetly, learning about asset division and divorce. Knowledge became my weapon. Emotionally, I leaned on a therapist, venting the rage and sorrow. "You're stronger than this," she said, and I began to believe it. The core of my revenge, exposure at the right moment. John's company had an annual gala, black tie, influential guests, including board members. Lisa would be there too, as her firm sponsored. Perfect stage. I designed anonymous emails tracing back to nothing. Content? Screenshots of their messages, photos from the hotel, all time-stamped. Recipients, John's boss, Lisa's supervisor, and mutual friends. Not to destroy careers outright, but to plant seeds of doubt, forcing accountability. But I added a twist. Personal confrontation first. I invited Lisa over for girl talk. As we sipped tea in my kitchen, I slid the folder across the table. Her face drained of color. "Sarah, It's not what it looks like." Lies tumbled out, how it just happened, how she felt guilty. I stayed calm, voice steady. "You've betrayed me in the worst way. Get out." She left in tears, but my anger fueled the next phase. With John, I waited for the gala night. He was excited, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "You look stunning," he said, kissing my cheek. Irony stung. At the event, champagne flowed, laughter echoed. Midway, I excused myself, sending the emails from a burner phone in the restroom. Chaos ensued subtly, whispers, sidelong glances. John's boss pulled him aside, face stern. Lisa's phone buzzed incessantly. She paled, excusing herself early. Back home, John confronted me, but I beat him to it. "I know everything," I said, showing my evidence. He denied at first, then crumbled. It was a mistake. I love you. Too late. I packed a bag, leaving him stunned. The revenge wasn't just exposure. It was walking away with my head high, reclaiming my life. As I drove off, relief washed over me, a mix of sadness and empowerment. The climax was near, but the real justice was in my freedom. The days following the gala were a whirlwind. John's promotion? Derailed. Whispers at work about his personal issues made him persona non grata. He called endlessly, begging for another chance, but I blocked him. Lisa faced similar fallout, her HR role scrutinized for ethics breaches. Friends distanced themselves, shocked by the betrayal. I didn't gloat. Watching from afar, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Their worlds, built on deceit, crumbled without me lifting another finger. Divorce proceedings began smoothly. With evidence, I secured a fair settlement. Half the house, savings intact. I sold our home, starting fresh in a sunny apartment downtown. Max the dog came with me, a loyal companion in my new chapter. Emotionally, healing took time. Nights of reflection, journaling the pain, but also the growth. I rediscovered hobbies, painting, yoga, evenings with true friends who rallied around me. John tried reconciliation once more, showing up with flowers. I messed up, Sarah. Please. His eyes pleaded, but mine were resolute. You chose this path, now live with it. He left defeated, the man I once loved reduced to regret. Lisa sent a letter, apologies, excuses. I burned it, symbolically closing that door. Life bloomed anew. I poured energy into my design business, landing bigger clients. Dates? Cautious, but hopeful. The experience taught me vigilance, trust, but verify. In the end, revenge wasn't about destruction, it was empowerment. I emerged stronger, wiser. Reflecting now, betrayal cuts deep, but it reveals truths. Cherish genuine connections, heed red flags. Justice comes not from vengeance, but rising above. If you're in shadows of doubt, no light awaits. You've got the strength. Claim it.